My name is Oksana Falenchuk. I'm a board member and treasurer of Razom for Ukraine. The objective of this meeting is sort of twofold. One is for all of us to meet and see each other, because I think we're doing a lot of work in the same direction, that is helping Ukraine at this very challenging historical moment of history. We do want to sincerely thank our partners and our donors, and we see that as an opportunity to say that, and I cannot say enough, how much we've already accomplished together. The second part is to discover and to learn something about what's happening in Ukraine right now, and to learn how this aid is being delivered in Ukraine. And that's why we have Natalia Tulinova here from Zdorovi. We will introduce her properly in a few minutes. I will just say that Natalia, I found out that she taught organizational change in healthcare at my alma mater, Kyiv Mohila Academy in Kyiv, and that's all I needed to know. That's where we hit it off. How many of you have heard of Razom before February? Some people. We have been around since 2014. We were founded after the Maidan and the Revolution of Dignity, those events, that's how we call it. And we're really people who have strong connection to Ukraine. We were either born in Ukraine or have family, personal networks. And we've been doing work in Ukraine for 9 years. Our mission is to build a more prosperous Ukraine. It's very broad. We've done things in many different directions. Since this full-scale invasion of Ukraine, our mission is, first and foremost, is to save lives. And that's why we launched our emergency response project, and that's how we all came together and work with each other. So our work is sort of around 5 different streams, and this team here is the hospitals team. So we are one of the teams that are working on delivering emergency response. We started with delivering tactical medicine, first aid, communications, sort of the stuff that's needed to save lives. Our team is working more with receiving in-kind donations of medical aid and supplies and facilitating the distribution in Ukraine. We have a team that's working on evacuations, as well as we have a grants program where we support the local Ukrainian NGOs in those areas where it's difficult to reach, but they work on providing food and medicine and help to the people who are either in deoccupied territories or the territories that are close to the front lines. And we already have close to 100 partners in that program. So there are sort of ears on the ground, and as well as we have an advocacy team. Maria Soroka is here representing it. She wears many hats. She's also a co-founder of Razom. And she is going on medical missions with Luke Tomic, who's been doing that as part of Razom, teaching neurosurgeons in Ukraine and working with neurosurgeons in Ukraine for many years. We all wear sort of many hats at Razom. But the goal of the advocacy team is to educate the public at large and to educate the main stakeholders in DC about the issue of Ukraine and why it's important for the U.S. as an ally of Ukraine. What's at stake. These QR codes here are the links to our impact report, and this is basically the summary. Since the start of the invasion in February, we have raised over $60 million, which for us is unheard of. Partnerships with Zdorovi, who is one of our biggest partners. But we are growing, Razom as an organization, we are growing very fast, and we take it very seriously. We feel a huge responsibility to our donors, and we will be updating on our impact on our work in Ukraine as we go along. And with that, Irena Kid is going to introduce our hospitals team, which is run by volunteers just like her.
Quite a sneak peek, I guess you can see it. I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for coming up here, for showing up, because I know in New York City, everybody's busy. So thank you for coming, for supporting Razom, for supporting Ukraine, for supporting Ukrainian medical hospitals. I want to start with the fact that I think people tend to romanticize and glamorize medical professions, maybe too much Grey's Anatomy. I would say I used to glamorize and romanticize NGO lives. It's something that I used to consider doing. I'm currently an ICU nurse, but I've always kind of was like, oh, this would be so cool to help the world, you know, world peace. Since February 2022, and kind of with the beginning of what became the hospitals team, the in-kind hospitals team, thanks to Maria Soroka, who had the idea that we need to collect aid that is being donated because this will be needed in Ukraine, and unfortunately it is needed, and it will continue to be needed until the end of war. I've learned that that is not true. Most of the days of somebody, perhaps in these times working in NGO, consist of a lot of Zoom meetings, lots of emails, and for the past 6 months, lots of sorting through individual medical supplies that have been sent to us by kind people from a box to pallets. So to us, from the beginning of war, I think it was important to collect everything, to sort it, and then to send it, and it found its way. And so the hospitals team was started by in-kind donations, first from private, individual donors, and now I'm so proud to say that we have some of the bigger partnerships. We are humbly a group of 8 people, and we come from all, ways of life. We have people who work in medicine, we have people who teach history, we have people who fundraise for Lincoln Center. So what unites us all is that we basically want to bring humanitarian aid to Ukraine during these unprecedented times. At this point, unfortunately, Ukraine has been overburdened and under-resourced due to the war that is happening. And so we just try to, in our humble ways, support the hospitals by providing, medications, medical supplies, and medical equipment when that is possible. Most of it, again, is donated by kind donors, but some of it is procured. So to date, this is some of the statistics that we were able to do and help Ukraine with.
Irena, could I ask, what are the high need regions? How do you define them?
That tends to be areas near where the activity is happening, because the civilians and soldiers are brought there on the first level, and then they're moved on to Western hospitals where they are, once they're stable. So mostly areas where hospitals have been destroyed, and then it's the nearest main hospital taking in all the wounded civilians.
It's in the areas of battle then, pretty much.
Yes, we do not help out in areas that are currently overtaken in Russia. So basically areas mostly that are closest to the zones of conflict, but also the Western Ukraine, because as Natalia, I'm sure will speak, a lot of those civilians and soldiers are being transferred then to Western Ukraine for further medical care. So some hospitals are just being left behind, and others are just overburdened with influx of patients. So this would not be possible, again, without partners, some of which are here. I know we have somebody from Airlink, Afya, Medshare, CMMB, some other private donors. I know Plast has done some incredible work, and I know some people are joining us online. So thank you so much for coming today, and thank you for supporting the Ukrainian medical system. It would not be possible without NGOs who, out of the goodness of their heart and out of the goodness for, seeing that there's a need, basically provide medical supplies, medications, and at times medical flights for medical missions to us and in turn to Ukraine. So thank you so much. I want to take a brief moment to talk about some other things that we've been able to help with. So to date, Razom Hospitals Team has tried to support a couple of medical missions. There have been 3 successful medical missions with Med Global. They've come to do some surgeries and also basically educate the Ukrainian doctors on the use of specific butterfly ultrasounds, which are kind of small and tend to provide aid when it's needed in the first moment of diagnosis. And we are very excited to have another larger mission led by Luke Tomic and Maria in the back in September, going to Ukraine, to Ivano-Frankivsk, to do basically to do repair work on facial and neck plastic surgeries for those Ukrainians who suffered during the war. So we are very grateful for them. If you have any questions, feel free to come up to us, or if I can be so blunt to say, to come up to Luke to see it. There's always a need, and so we are very excited to have the ability to support these missions. I want to give word to our other team member, Irina G, who will then introduce Zdorovi. I don't want to bore you here, but I just have to say that I've been very proud of our team and what little we were able to do, if I can humbly say so.
Hi everyone. I'm also going to be thanking everyone for your time and attention and long-lasting support to Ukraine. We'll go to the next slide. So all this work that Ira just mentioned would, of course, would not be possible without our partners who are helping us in Ukraine. And these are Zdorovi, Pacient Ukraine, and Razom for Ukraine. It's actually, Razom for Ukraine has 2 presences, one here in New York, the office, and the other one is in Lviv in Ukraine. And it's our huge honor today to introduce one of our partners, and it's Humanitarian. It's the National Agency for Humanitarian Aid Zdorovi, and its president, Natalia Turinova. I cannot speak highly enough of Natalia and her work, her dedication, her commitment, and her leadership in what I've known her now for almost 6 months. I remember since the very first time I reached out to her on the phone, and in 2-3 minutes we just went straight into business, started planning, thinking what should be done next, how, finding the sources, etc. So it was an immediate collaboration, and I'm so grateful for that. I think since that time we've been pretty much in touch every single day, I believe. Natalia and her team were able to rise up to the challenge right away, straight into it, and despite the very volatile situation on the ground, everything is changing. I remember we were talking about the routes, how the aid will be delivering in ABC hospitals, and then all of a sudden she's calling and saying, well, that place was bombed, so we need to find another route, etc. So it was crazy, but it was really done so professionally by her and her team from the very start, and it has many pieces, moving pieces, starting from logistics to custom clearance to processes to reporting. Everything is done in such an efficient and professional way. It's a really pleasure to work with Natalia and her team. So huge thank you for that. I just also have to say that Zdorovi focuses on delivering the medical aid and medical supply to mainly 17 areas in Ukraine that are across the conflict line, close to the conflict line. And I'm sure Natalia will tell you a little bit more about their work in details. But before I will pass the floor to her, I just want to go very quickly over our format. We'll have, next Natalia will present, we will have a Q&A after her presentation, so please save your questions for afterwards. We also have people online, as we were told. Hello, we are really grateful that you're joining. Thank you so much, and we hope you will be with us next time in the room. But also, if you have questions, please post them in the chat. We are trying to finish up in about an hour. So with that, I will pass the floor to Natalia, and we will start with the short video.
There are numbers that we interpret incorrectly. When we read another terrifying piece of news in Ukraine, 16 killed, 59 wounded, we think, what a tragedy. At least 59 people survived. We breathe a sigh of relief way too early, because truth is, the battle for those lives still goes on. Behind the doors of the operating room, in the intensive care unit, on rehabilitation. There are also numbers we do not know. Number of the days someone is struggling without medicine. Number of the lives the doctor remembers every night because they were not able to save them without necessary equipment. However, there are numbers we do know very well. The number of true friends to the medical front of Ukraine who help us provide medicines, medical equipment, and consumables. How big is the aid we were able to collect together? The number of life-saving deliveries we made from the hospitals. These are numbers we interpret as we stand with Ukraine, we stand for freedom, we stand for humanity. Thank you for your support. Let's continue empowering doctors to save lives.
Natalia will be speaking in Ukrainian and I'll be translating into English. I'm sorry, I'm not a professional translator, so bear with me. I will try.
Добрий день всім. Я дуже рада всіх вітати. І я вдячна за запрошення організації Разом, яка сьогодні нас тут зібрала, і я можу надати інформацію про Україну і про потреби українських лікарень.
Hi everyone, I'm very grateful and happy to be here. I'm grateful to Razom for the invitation and for the opportunity to actually speak about what's happening on the ground in Ukraine.
Я не займу вас багато часу, але я дуже хочу, щоб коли я буду говорити, ваші серця були відкриті для того, щоб почути все про Україну. Тому що тут буде багато про процес, але це все про те, що відбувається саме в Україні.
I'll try not to take much of your time, but for everyone here, I really want your hearts to be open and to hear what is really happening in Ukraine. There will be some information about the processes and about logistics, etc. But what is actually matter is people and Ukraine in general.
Мій перший слайд починається з того, що в мене було безхмарне життя.
The first slide shows that I had a life of no limits.
Я була викладачкою 2 курсів спеціалізованих в Києво-Могилянській академії.
I was a professor at the Kyiv Mohila Academy, and I was tutoring 2 courses.
І я є міжнародним експертом з систем якості в охороні здоров'я.
And I'm an international expert from the quality of the health systems.
На ці фото я багато виступаю, тому що я дійсно багато виступала, і зверху я тут проводжу перший рейтинг «Кращий роботодавець в охороні здоров'я серед лікарень» для того, щоб захищати інтереси лікарів, які працюють в системі охорони здоров'я.
On this slide I am presenting, and I used to present a lot, and on this particular slide I am on the inauguration of the best health employer, because that was important to make sure that people are acknowledged for that type of work.
Я мала кар'єру, визнання і авторитет.
I had a career, the authority and the respect.
І на той час працювала в медицині 19 років.
And at that time I've been in medical sphere for 19 years.
Потім стався цей день.
And then this day came.
Цей день я зустріла в 4 ранку з власними дітьми. Я через страшні корки почала вибиратися з міста Києва, бо я живу на Печерську, від 3 кілометрів від кварталу, де розміщується президентська будівля.
That day at 4 a.m. in the morning, me and my kids were going were facing the shelling, and we were trying to flee Kiev, and we faced a lot of traffic because everyone was doing the same, and she was living 3 kilometers from the presidential administration, which was targeted at that moment.
І в той час, коли я їхала за місто в свій будинок, який знаходиться за містом, я почала писати лікарям пост про те, що я хочу запитати в них, хто сьогодні з них працює, тому що через 2 години військові Росії вже стояли біля Києва. І мені було потрібно зрозуміти, хто працює, якщо потрібно буде надавати медичну допомогу, до кого можна її направляти.
And on my way outside, on my way leaving Kiev, I was already writing to doctors, trying to understand who is being at the service, who's working today, because the contact line and the Russian troops were already 2 hours away from Kiev, so she needed to understand who might need medical assistance or medical support at that time.
І цей пост зібрав 600 коментарів, не просто лайків, а коментарів.
And what was impressive is that post had over 600 comments, not even just reaction or likes, but it has over 600 comments underneath.
Лікарні по всій Україні почали писати, як сьогодні відбувається їх операційна діяльність.
The hospitals all over Ukraine started reporting back on how their operational activities set up all over Ukraine.
І в тих коментарях було вже багато благання про допомогу.
And these comments have already had pleas for support.
І в нас з'явилася ціль.
And this is how our goal was born.
Ці фото, перші фото першого тижня, і вони для мене дуже багато чого значать.
These photos are from the first week of the war, and they mean a lot for me.
Це були ще дуже маленькі вантажі.
These were just really small packages.
Але вони допомагали тим лікарням, які вже стикалися з першим прийомом поранених цивільних.
But these little small packages were already helping those first civilians who were in need for medical support.
Перша допомога прийшла з Німеччини.
The first help arrived from Germany.
Це було 1 березня.
It was 1st of March.
3 дня після початку бойових дій.
It's 3 days since the beginning of the military actions.
У нас була команда.
We had a team.
До цього в нашій команді працювало 11 людей, які були тренерами, аудиторами і менеджерами в системі охорони здоров'я.
Before that, we had 11 people working in our team, and they were auditors, trainees, and they all worked in the medical sphere.
На сьогодні вони всі отримали нову спеціальність.
Today, they all have a new role.
Вони стали логістами, вони стали координаторами комунікації з заходами охорони здоров'я, вони стали провізорами, і до нашої команди доєдналася велика група тих людей, фахівців, які сьогодні допомагають нам робити нашу експертну роботу.
They are logisticians, they are communication personnel who is working on communicating with the Ministry of Health of Ukraine, but also hospitals. And they take in all these roles now and new roles that are helping us to go with our mission, to accomplish our mission and the role.
В нас були цінності і в нас були компетенції.
What helped us is that we had values and we had competencies to achieve this role.
Весь цей час до цього дня ми займалися тим, що ми модернізували заклади охорони здоров'я, займалися трансформацією процесів в системі охорони здоров'я.
Prior to the war, we were working on modernizing and improving the health management and medical systems in Ukraine.
Враховуючи наш досвід роботи з міжнародними донорами, такими як ЮНІСЕФ, GZ і іншими партнерами, такими як USAID і іншими партнерами, ми могли почати надавати допомогу для лікарень.
With thanks to experience that we built with such partners as USAID, UNICEF, GIZ, we were able to know and already build the proper processes to help the current situation.
Бо ми дуже добре знали, як працюють заклади охорони здоров'я в Україні і які саме системи моніторингу можна залучити для того, впровадити для того, щоб в тому числі надавати допомогу і звітувати про неї.
Because we knew really well how the medical institutions in Ukraine work, and we were able to understand and identify very quickly what are reporting and like basically management mechanisms of those institutions are, and how quickly and in which way they're able to receive medical support and how it could be handled.
Таким чином з'явилася організація, яка називається Благодійний фонд Національна агенція гуманітарної допомоги і здоров'я.
This is how Zdorowie was born, which is a humanitarian aid foundation in Ukraine.
І з'явилася стратегія допомоги цивільним в тих регіонах і областях, які потерпають від впливу бойових дій.
And this is how we build a strategy to help those civilians and medical institutions close to the contact line. This is what they're focusing on.
На сьогодні ми допомагаємо шпиталям, ми допомагаємо клінічним лікарням, перинатальним центрам та пологовим будинкам в майже усіх областях України, це близько 20 областей.
Today they are helping hospitals, they're helping maternity homes, also I know that they're helping elderly facilities for elderly people all over. Now it's all over Ukraine, and Natalia just mentioned it's about 20 regions.
І ми розуміємо, що сьогодні, коли ми всі надаємо допомогу в умовах війни, завтра це буде проєкт відновлення українських лікарень, які постраждали.
And while today we understand that we are helping the hospitals that are currently in the war operations or military, like they have to operate under military circumstances, tomorrow what we will be focusing on, or the next step what we will be focusing on, is to help these hospitals recover and become stronger, get stronger out of the situation.
Все це неможливо було б без допомоги цих організацій.
This all would not be possible without the help of these organizations.
Без вашої допомоги.
Basically without your help.
І дійсно набагато допомоги ми отримуємо від організації Razom for Ukraine і від цих чудових представниць цієї організації, які тут сьогодні присутні.
And really, like the great support we're receiving is from the Razom for Ukraine and from women who are present in this room today. Very humble translation.
She said these beautiful women.
Sorry, that was a missing word. I'm playing it down, no, I'm correct.
Сьогодні 70% допомоги, яка приходить до нас у вигляді ліків, обладнання, розхідників, вона надається саме організацією Razom.
Today, about 70% of the aid that we are receiving is coming from Razom, and this could be in both medical supplies, medical equipment, and other medical-related things.
І також Razom стали нашими грантодавцями і підтримали нас в нашій операційній діяльності, таких як склади і логістика.
We also became a grantee of Razom, and Razom is helping us with our operational activities, in particular warehouse and logistics.
Все це неможливо було б без стейкхолдерів, які надавали свою частину допомоги і які сьогодні є нашими партнерами в тому, щоб забезпечувати всю допомогу по всій території України.
This, of course, would not have been possible without our stakeholders, who became not only our partners, but also our huge supporters in being able to accommodate the response and support and help throughout the territory of Ukraine.
Це Міністерство охорони здоров'я, Міністерство стратегічного розвитку, Міністерство внутрішніх справ України та Міністерство економіки.
So these are Ministry of Health of Ukraine, Ministry of Economic Development and Trade in Ukraine, Ministry of Internal Affairs, and Ministry for Development of Economy, Trade and Agriculture of Ukraine.
Ми є частиною координаційного штабу Міністерства охорони здоров'я, і в нас є постійні наради, на яких приймається досить серйозне рішення щодо забезпечення гуманітарної допомоги по всій території України.
We are a part of the coordination group that is acting on behalf of and with the Minister of Health of Ukraine. And at this group and at the level of partners present at this group, the very important decisions are being made in terms of what type of support and where is needed in Ukraine.
І повірте мені, що сьогодні міцність волонтерських інститутів настільки сильна, що ми дійсно впливаємо на ті рішення, які приймаються в частині гуманітарної допомоги в Україні.
And trust me, today the level of commitment and support that is received on behalf of the partially volunteering organizations is very strong, and is the opinion and the feedback is very much taken into consideration at the highest level of the government in Ukraine.
Важливо додати, що ми маємо підписані листи і меморандуми допомоги з воєнними адміністраціями.
It is important to emphasize also that we have a memorandum of understanding and various letters of cooperation between the administrations, city administrations, which is renamed into military administration because it's a military condition, military state in Ukraine. So they have a cooperation with all the hospitals throughout Ukraine.
Це дозволяє забезпечити з їхнього боку нам гарантовану та безпечну доставку дороговартісних ліків до тих місць, які вже знаходяться достатньо близько до лінії фронту.
This is really important because this cooperation, which is basically done on the regional level, on the highest regional level of government, is very helpful because of this cooperation, we are able to deliver the most high value and most needed medical support into areas that are very close to the combat zone, because there are transportation issues. Not everyone obviously is able to go. I'm explaining a little bit on behalf of myself how it works, but not everyone is able to reach the areas that are close to the contact line unless you have a confirmation and the support, which would be like a convoy that is helping you to bring medicine into these hospitals that are in a half-bombarded, half-bombed areas.
Саме вони забезпечували допомогу в супроводі поліцейського або воєнного конвою, такі міста як Чернігів, Миколаїв, Суми і Харків.
It's thanks to them we were able to bring the military aid and military support with the help of convoys. It's like a police convoys that were helping them to bring the medicine to
medical aid?
Medical aid, yes, into the areas like Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv, and Mykolaiv. So these are the areas that were very much hit and very much under the fire.
Вся ця допомога неможлива була б без важливого фундаменту. Це побудова правильної логістики.
All this help would have not been possible without having a proper base, which is the right logistic system.
І через 10 днів після початку бойових дій, коли в нас почали накопичувати ці перші вантажі, нам була потрібна своя логістика, яка б забезпечувала нам максимально швидку доставку до лінії фронту, в ті міста, де відбувалися бойові дії, там, де страждали.
And 10 days in, we really had this huge need of logistical arrangements in place that would help them deliver, because aid started coming in, but they didn't have logistics. So they had to have this logistic in place to deliver the help into the locations where it was most needed.
І завдяки Ірині сталося диво, до нас доєднався донор, який сказав, що він готовий забезпечувати покриття всіх наших логістичних витрат, без обговорення з ним, куди будуть йти саме ці вантажі. Ми отримували інвойс і потім просто він сплачував цей інвойс, і так відбувалося на протязі 3 місяців.
And I did not expect this, but and thanks to me, I was able to bring the donor on board. It was back then it was not Razom. I was really just searching in Ukraine, I was able to bring on donor on board who was willing to pay all the logistics without asking about the final destinations, without procedures. He was just getting invoices and paying them off. So the trust that was built between me, donor, and Zdorowie was at a very high level.
І на сьогодні в нас в день відбувається близько 3-4 відгрузок, яких може бути доставки до 5-8 міст, в яких може бути 10 і 12 лікарень. Тому що логістика побудована максимально ефективно і максимально продуктивно.
And today we have 2-3 routes or shipments that are coming to around 5 cities or locations.
І там може бути в кожному місті по два заклади охорони здоров'я.
And each of these locations would have, on average, like 2 hospitals or facilities that is acting as a hospital. So they are able to maximize the efforts for logistics in the way that they can bring as much support as possible into these locations in one day.
Дуже важливо було побудувати відносини з кордоном.
It was really important to build a relationship with customs.
Це був незвичайний кейс, тому що всі нормативка, яка була до цього, вона була просто змінена.
It was really unusual because all the legislations and all the normal procedures and documents that we used prior to that was changed completely.
В перший тиждень роботи своєї організації ми написали 18 листів на всі таможенні пропускні пункти для того, щоб нас зареєстрували Мінсоцполітики як дистриб'ютор гуманітарної допомоги в Україні.
In the first week of our operation, we wrote letters to 18 checkpoints. Border checkpoints, custom points. With the request for the Ministry of Social Policy or the ministry who is handling the border to accept them as one of the receivers of the organization receiver of the humanitarian aid.
Ми вивчили всю законодавчу базу щодо перевезення через кордон гуманітарних вантажів і підготували пам'ятку для водіїв з шаблонами документів, які вони мають заповнювати для того, щоб якомога скоріше переходити кордон і доставляти допомогу в наші склади.
We prepared, we learned all the legislation, we learned all the documents and procedures, and we also created a guidance for the drivers where we would place step-by-step instructions on how they should pass the border, including all the forms that they have to fill out and all the information that they were supporting with on behalf of the Zdorowie.
І на сьогодні через кордон саме на нас, як на отримувача, на дистриб'ютор гуманітарної допомоги, пройшли більше ніж 100 відгрузок. І навіть інші організації звертаються до нас для того, щоб ми оформили документи таким чином, щоб навіть коли є складнощі з перевезенням вантажів, коли, наприклад, вони застрягають між кордонами, ми могли його взяти на себе і розподіляти для потреб лікарні.
And today we're proud to say that we received over 100 cases of aid passing the border, or like successfully handled over 100 cases of aid passing the border, and we also received many requests from other various organizations who had issues with customs, with the requests to help them either work with the aid that was stuck somewhere or didn't have enough documents, etc. So they helped them to manage these processes as well.
Склад. Неможлива робота в дистриб'юції гуманітарних вантажів без добре налаштованої роботи складу.
And of course important is warehouse. Nothing is possible without properly working warehouse and properly working distribution process in the warehouse.
За цей час ми навчилися обліковувати, зберігати, сортувати, пакувати все від госпітальних коробок і закінчуючи великим обладнанням холодильників для зберігання крові.
We learned how to pack, how to properly put on balance, how to transport, how to keep all types of medical materials, including the refrigerators for keeping the blood.
На складі сьогодні працює якнайбільша команда, яка в нас є. Якщо вона починалася в березні місяці з 12 людей, на сьогодні це 8 людей, які забезпечують повне і продуктивну роботу складу.
Today we have at the most capacity 8 people working in the warehouse, and they are able, since the processes are so streamlined, they're able to cover all the needs and cover all the logistics and distribution needed on the warehouse side.
Вона складається з, в тому числі, провізорів, які надають максимально швидку відповідь і експертну оцінку того, що саме ми можемо брати для того, щоб забезпечити комплексність тих поставок, які будуть потім відбуватися на лікарні.
It concludes the professionals who are able to put together the lists of what is exactly needed for the most comprehensive packaging of aid needed for certain hospitals. So basically they help with understanding what needs to go in the package for certain hospitals.
Вся наша робота була б і неможлива без наших партнерів, і тут я виділила два головних з них.
And this work would have not been possible without our partners in Ukraine, and here I want to emphasize 2 of them.
До речі, я сама зв'язалася з пацієнтами України, попросила їй дати слайд, які вони нададуть для того, щоб бути представленими перед нами.
I reached out to patients of Ukraine. They're also our partner as well, but they now cooperate with Zdorovi, and they did send her this slide, so this is coming just from them.
Ми надзвичайно задоволені тією співпрацею професійною, яка відбувається з пацієнтами України.
We're really happy and satisfied with the work and our partnership with patients of Ukraine.
А також в нас повірили Міжнародний фонд відродження і надали нам допомогу на заробітні плати наших працівників на 1 рік.
We also been trusted by the International Renaissance Foundation, and they are now supporting our personnel salaries for a year, which is great news.
І дуже важливим для нас елементом побудови нашої структурованої та системної роботи була система автоматизації обліку.
And to build our structured and streamlined system, it was really important to have an automated system of balancing, putting things on balance, like accounting.
Маркування вантажів, звітність по вантажах. Все сьогодні відбувається через QR-коди, через телеграм-канали, де відправка з нашого боку і отримання. Ми все відслідковуємо і можемо бачити в режимі реального часу перевезення цього вантажу і моніторинг цього етапу.
The process is automated now, or is fully automated now. They're using QR codes, they're using tracking mechanisms, they're using direct communication, so they basically are able to track the cargo or the certain piece of aid on every stage of its transportation chain.
І сьогодні, коли медичний заклад отримав нашу допомогу, йому потрібно навести фото телефоном на QR-код, і з цього моменту починається етап звітності.
So now we build this system with the hospitals where once they receive the help, all they need to do is to scan the QR code, and this is sort of where the process of reporting begins.
І поки вони не нададуть нам і нашим донорам фото, відео, лист подяки та акт, їм система буде постійно щодня нагадувати про те, що вони є нашими, що вони на винні.
And until they will receive a photo, a status report, a letter of what is being put on their balance, and something else, and act. So it's just like it's a legal document. The system that they built will be reminding the hospital to upload these documents, because this is a part of reporting and this is only way how they work with hospitals.
Every single day.
Yes.
Три людини працюють у нас в якості координаторів якраз по комунікації з закладом охорони здоров'я, і вони відслідковують не тільки етап аналітики, верифікації того, щоб заклад відповідав критеріям певним для того, щоб ця допомога була їм надана.
We have 3 dedicated, just reporting person working on our team. They oversee not only the verification of the needs, because they're in touch with hospitals every time and they do verify what needs, what's being delivered, what is on balance, etc. But also they do verify the reporting of each hospital.
Але й в тому числі забезпечують цей процес допомоги в формуванні звітності.
But they also do help with forming the reporting in the proper way. So they consult basically hospitals on how to form the reporting in the way that is needed for donors.
Наша робота в комунікації могла б бути кращою.
Our work in public communication could be better.
Але незважаючи на те, що зараз на сьогодні це є не головний фокус нашої уваги.
But today it's not a really huge focus of our attention.
Все одно нас помітили і запросили нашу організацію до виступу в Давосі.
Despite that fact that we are not so diligent with our public communication, we've been noticed by people in Davos, and they invited them to.
І в мене було 3 хвилини слави, коли я виступала на прес-конференції про проекти відновлення медичної сфери.
And they invited Natalia and Zdorovi to present during the Davos 2022 on the medical aid and systems of support and rehabilitation in Ukraine.
Ось наш репортинг, який є. Ми збираємо багато аплодисментів наших донорів за наші чудові репорти.
We do collect a lot of, this is how our reporting looks like, and we do get lots of applause from the donors on the way how we are reporting.
Там помилка.
Вони є загальними, вони є спеціалізованими, вони є в режимі реального часу, вони відображають повністю абсолютно прозору систему того, як відбувається загрузка на сьогодні всіх цих документів, про які я говорила, які роблять сам заклад, і він одразу з'являється там в нашому субдомені, і всі можуть бачити те, яку кількість допомоги, який донор саме в яку лікарню надав.
The reporting is transparent. It is live, time updated. It is happening with the help of that process that they built before. So basically, when the hospital does receive support and does receive support, it reports back and it's automatically updated in their reporting system. So anyone can access and anyone can see how much aid they received, from which partners it came, where it went, etc.
На сьогодні ми працюємо з майже 20 областями України, куди надається допомога.
Today we are working with 20 oblasts in Ukraine where the help goes.
І на сьогодні це 160 лікарень, які клінічних лікарень, перше за все, які потребують допомоги, які отримують її більш-менш системно.
And today it's over 160 hospitals that are in need for the support, for aid and support, and they receive it systematically.
Але ми отримали 370 заявок.
But we received 370 requests so far.
А забезпечуємо лише 160.
And we are able to fulfill only 160 of that.
На сьогодні ми зробили більше 250 тонн вантажів, які ми доставили до кінцевих реципієнтів.
Today we delivered over 150 tons for the end beneficiaries.
І це 700 палет вантажів, яких зберігається і доставлена допомога для пацієнтів, для людей, які очікують на рятування життя.
And it's over 700 pallets of support that is delivered to people who are in need to save their lives.
Лінія фронту простягається на 2450 кілометрів.
The contact line is 245 kilometers long.
2,000. You said
Так,
2,450 kilometers long.
і кількість допомоги, яка потребує лікарням не тільки клінічного спеціалізації, але й первинної допомоги значно більше.
And the amount of aid that is coming to Ukraine is not enough, and the hospitals, the civilian hospitals, other hospitals do have much higher needs than that.
На сьогодні 123 медичні заклади зруйновані.
123 medical institutions are completely destroyed.
І їх робота на протязі періоду року не може бути відновлена.
And their work cannot be restored in the length of 1 year.
З того, що потребують сьогодні лікарні, я хотіла б дуже коротко і стисло сказати, що ми провели опитування серед 40 лікарень в 17 областях на вияв потреб на зимовий період, які можуть бути їм конче потрібні для того, щоб забезпечувати повноцінне функціонування.
We do keep in touch with doctors and we do conduct surveys, and this is the latest one that we did. We asked over 40 hospitals to respond on what are their needs for the upcoming period, and especially the winter coming.
Я зможу надати інформацію, вона може бути, якщо у вас до цього цікавість більше інформації особисто і передати весь звіт. А тут я вивела конкретно те, що потрібно для забезпечення пацієнтів, забезпечення лікарів. Тому що це дві різні аудиторії, дві різні категорії, які на сьогодні потребують нашої допомоги.
I can provide a full report or more information on that separately, but here I want to focus on sort of two categories of needs. One is for patients and one is for medical staff and doctors, because these are quite different.
В Україні очікується складна зима.
We are expecting a really tough winter in Ukraine.
І все, що буде потрібно в першу чергу, це все, що стосується тепла і теплозберігаючих речей.
And everything what we would focus on and what is needed in the first sense is everything is with connection to warm clothing and heating and everything that would keep people warm temperature.
Тут лише 40 лікарень, які надали свою глибинну аналітику для того, що потрібно взагалі українській системі охорони здоров'я.
These results are coming only from 40 hospitals who identify their highest needs in terms of what is coming for the period of next 6 months out of all the system and out of all the needs throughout Ukraine.
Але кількість медичних установ в Україні сьогодні налічувало до початку війни майже 4 тисячі.
But the number of medical institutions or medical facilities in Ukraine before the war was around 4,000.
123 з них, як ви бачили, не зможуть функціонувати в цей період.
123 out of them will not be functioning during this period, as you've seen, they are destroyed.
Майже 900 з них постраждали і або частково мають руйнацію, або не можуть забезпечувати на сьогодні свої потреби, тому що були, наприклад, або знаходяться в окупації, або були в окупації певний час.
900 out of them are partially destroyed or are based in the territories that are occupied by Russian army.
В цьому році програма нашого прем'єр-міністра забезпечить 100 генераторів для українських лікарень.
For this season, for this year, the Prime Minister program in Ukraine will be able to provide. Will be able to provide 100 generators or the heating generator facilities for the hospitals.
Ще близько 150 лікарень отримало допомогу в кількості певних генераторів в цю зиму, коли надавалася певна допомога.
Around 150 of them did receive the support, like heating generators, in last sort of this season when the war started.
Але ще залишається 2000 лікарень приблизно, які на сьогодні потребують цієї допомоги прямо зараз.
So it's basically around 2,000 institutions left without no heating opportunities or options for this upcoming winter.
Тому що через 3 місяці Україна стикнеться з цією проблемою нагадую.
And unfortunately, we will start facing this problem already in about 3 months.
Всі ці лікарні дякують вам за допомогу.
All these hospitals are really grateful for your support.
І чекають на те, що ви зможете допомагати і надалі, наскільки це можливо.
They're grateful for your support and also are hoping that that support will keep going, keep flowing, because that's is life-saving and it helps their work.
Сьогодні всі відмічають феномен українця.
Today everyone is celebrating a phenomenon of Ukrainian.
Це готовність віддати життя за свої цінності.
Which is basically the readiness to give up your life for your values.
Сьогодні в цій залі зібралися ті, хто вже на основі своїх цінностей допомагає далекій, невідомій країні для деяких з вас.
And in this room today we have people who are, based on their values, are already helping a country that is so far from their home.
І країна, яка залишилася в серці для тих, хто з нею колись воював.
And also a country who remains in their hearts for the people who left the country before.
Дякую вам за цю зустріч, дякую вам за допомогу і маю сподівання, що ми будемо працювати надалі.
Thank you so much for this meeting. Thank you so much for your help, and I really hope that we will continue our cooperation in the future.
Слава Україні!